Async await is one of the most important JavaScript skills, but many developers only learn the simple examples. In this video, we will build 16 practical async patterns you will actually use in real projects, APIs, and interviews. We start with the async and await basics you use every day in real JavaScript projects: loading data, handling failures, and returning clean results from helper functions. In a real dashboard, we usually cannot render the profile area until the user data is ready. Let's write a mocked API call, await it inside another async function, and then print the user's name. Now we run the script and look at the order of the messages. Let's break down why this output is useful. The first log happens immediately. Then await pauses only the show profile function until the promise resolves. After the user object is ready, the next line can safely use user.name. Now let's show the best habit for this pattern. Await the value at the level where the next line truly needs it. This keeps the flow readable and makes it obvious which work depends on the API result. When a product API is down, the app should not explode with a raw stack trace. Let's write an async function that fails on purpose, then catch that failure where we can show a clear message. Now we run it and check that the process stays under control. Let's break down the result. The await line receives a rejected promise, so JavaScript jumps straight into the catch block. Because we handle the error there, the terminal prints a friendly message instead of an unhandled rejection. Now let's show the best way to place this catch block, handle the error where you can actually do something useful. For a UI screen, that may mean showing fallback text. For a background job, it may mean retrying or logging with context. Before an app starts, it often needs configuration from a file, service, or remote endpoint. Let's keep that loading logic in a helper. Return the config object and let start app use it. Now we run the script and confirm the app starts only after config is available. Let's break down the handoff. Returning from an async function resolves its promise with that value. That means start app can await load config and work with config as a normal object on the next line. Now let's show the better design choice. Keep the helper focused on loading and returning data. The caller can log it, validate it, cache it, or pass it into another service without changing the helper. Next, we control timing. Some async operations must run in order, while independent operations should start together to save real waiting time. Checkout is a classic case where order matters. We need stock validation first, then payment, then order creation. Let's write each step as an async function, await them in sequence, and run the script to verify the exact order. Let's break down the flow. The payment step receives the cart ID only after stock validation returns. Then create order receives the payment ID, so the final step has everything it needs. Now let's show the best rule for sequence. Do not parallelize dependent business steps just to make the code look faster. If one step needs the result of another step, write the dependency clearly with await. A dashboard often needs stats, notifications, and billing data, and those calls usually do not depend on each other. First, we load them sequentially, then we load the same data with promise all. Now we run the script and compare the visible timing difference. Let's break down why the second version is faster. In the sequential version, each await starts only after the previous call has finished. With promise all three calls start immediately, and await waits for the group. Now let's show the best rule for parallel loading. Use promise all only when the calls are independent. It reduces total waiting time, but one rejected promise rejects the whole group, so handle errors around it when the data source can fail. In this section, we control what happens when several async operations finish in different ways. The goal is to keep useful work instead of throwing everything away. Sometimes a page has optional widgets, and one failed widget should not break the entire dashboard. Let's write 3 widget loaders, make one of them fail, and use promise all settled to keep a full report. Now we run the script and look at how the successful values and warning are printed separately. Let's break down why this works. Promise all would reject as soon as stocks fails, but promise all settled waits for all 3 loaders. Each result has a status so we can safely collect good data and failed reasons without guessing. Now we show the best practice for this case. Use all settled only when partial success is allowed. It is a good fit for optional UI sections, background enrichments, and batch work where the caller needs a complete status report. Now we move into reliability patterns. These examples help async code fail fast, retry carefully, and avoid putting extra pressure on services that are already struggling. External services can be slow or stuck, and the user should not wait forever. Let's create a fake partner API that takes too long, then race it against a 500 millisecond timeout. Now we run the script and the timeout wins before the API returns. Let's break down the result. Promiser race does not wait for every promise. It uses the first one that settles, because the timeout rejects first. Our catch block gets a clear timeout error instead of leaving the flow hanging. Now we show the best practice. Wrap external calls with a timeout whenever the user is waiting on them. This is especially important for payments, search, login, and integrations, where a frozen request can block the whole experience. Some failures are temporary, like an email provider being unavailable for a moment. Let's create a function that fails twice, succeeds on the third call, and run it through a retry helper. Now we run the script and watch each attempt. Let's break down why the retry is controlled. The loop awaits each attempt, so the next try only starts after the previous one finishes. If the operation keeps failing until the last attempt, the helper throws instead of retrying forever. Now we show the best practice. Retry only failures that are likely to be temporary. A validation error or wrong password should not be retried, but a network timeout or temporary provider failure often can be retried with a strict limit. Retries are useful, but retrying too aggressively can overload a service that is already failing. Let's call a rate-limited inventory API and double the wait time after each failed attempt. Now we run the script and check the growing delays in the terminal. Let's break down the timing. The expression uses the attempt number to calculate 200, then 400, then 800 milliseconds. The fourth call finally succeeds, so the helper returns the result and stops retrying. Now we show the best practice. Use backoff when retrying remote systems like APIs, databases, queues, and payment providers. In production, add a small random jitter too. So many clients do not retry at exactly the same moment. In this section, we handle many async jobs without starting everything at once. This is the kind of pattern you need when network, CPU, file handles, or provider quotas are limited. Starting every upload at once can overwhelm the network or hit a provider limit. Let's process 7 image uploads with a concurrency limit of 3, using workers that pick up the next available job. Now we run the script and confirm that only 3 uploads start at first. Let's break down the pool. We create 3 worker promises, and each worker waits for its current upload before taking another file. The results are stored by the original index, so the final list stays in the same order as the input. Now we show the best practice. Limit concurrency whenever async jobs consume shared resources. Uploads, database calls, file operations, and third-party APIs usually work better with a clear limit than with hundreds of jobs starting at once. In this section, we focus on async workflows where the order and shape of concurrency really matter. These examples show when to run work one step at a time and when to collect parallel async results safely. When migrating database records, order can matter because each write may depend on the previous one being complete. Here we loop through customer IDs with 4 of await each migration and only then continue. Now we run the script and watch the terminal print each customer in strict order. Let's break down why this works. The await inside the loop pauses the run migration function for the current customer only. JavaScript does not start the next migration until the current promise resolves. Now let's show the best practice for ordered async work. Use for of with await when order matters, when rate limits are strict, or when each step depends on the last result. This is clearer and safer than trying to force array for each to behave sequentially. A common project task is turning product IDs into full product objects from an API. Here, map creates one async request per ID, and promise all turns that array of promises into real data. Now we run it and check that the terminal prints finished product objects, not pending promises. Let's break down the important part. The map call does not wait by itself. It creates a new array containing promises. Promise all is the moment where we wait for every request and receive the resolved product list. Now let's show the best practice for async transformations. Use async map when the operations are independent, then collect the results with promise all. This keeps the code compact and makes the concurrency intentional. This section covers cleanup. Async code often opens resources, starts temporary state, or locks something, and those things must be released even when the operation fails. In a real backend, leaving a database connection open after a failure can cause slow leaks and production issues. Here we open a simulated connection, run a query that fails, catch the error, and close the connection in finally. Now we run the script and verify that cleanup still happens. Let's break down the flow. The awaited query throws, so JavaScript jumps to catch and prints the friendly error. After that, finally runs anyway, which is exactly where resource cleanup belongs. Now let's show the best practice for cleanup. Put must-run cleanup in finally, especially for connections, file handles, locks, loading flags, and temporary state. That way success and failure use the same cleanup path. This section moves into more advanced async patterns. We will cancel work that is no longer useful and then consume data that arrives over time. In a search box, an old request becomes useless as soon as the user types a newer query. Here we start a fetch-like search, pass it an abort signal, and abort it after a short delay. Now we run the script and make sure cancellation is handled as expected, not as a crash. Let's break down the result. The search starts normally, but the controller sends an abort signal before the timer resolves. The catch block checks for abort error, so the app can ignore the old request without hiding real errors. Now let's show the best practice for cancelable async work. Pass an abort signal into operations that may become stale, and branch on abort error in catch. Apply this to search, autocomplete, route changes, and any request the user can replace with a newer action. Paginated APIs and event streams often deliver data in pieces, not as one finished array. Here we create an async generator that yields pages after small delays, then consume those pages with for a wait of now we run it and watch each page print as it arrives. Let's break down the stream behavior. The generator pauses at each yield and resumes only when the consumer asks for the next value. That means we process one page at a time without building one huge result in memory. Now let's show the best practice for incremental data. Use async iteration when records arrive over time, like paginated API pages, logs, messages, or streamed events. It keeps memory usage low and makes each chunk easy to handle. Now we combine several async patterns into one realistic workflow. This is the kind of composition you need when a feature touches validation, APIs, retries, timeouts, and cleanup. In real projects, one request often becomes a small pipeline. Here we process an order by validating it, loading customer and inventory data in parallel, charging payment with retry and timeout protection, and always writing an audit log. Now we run the script and watch the stages appear in the same order the workflow executes. Let's break down why this result makes sense. Validation runs first. Then the customer and inventory requests start together because they are independent. The payment fails once. Retry catches that failure. The second attempt succeeds, and finally still writes the audit record before the final status is printed. Now we show the production-style rule to remember. This approach is better when a workflow has several failure points, because each stage has a clear responsibility and the error boundary is easy to reason about. Use small helpers for retry and timeout instead of mixing that logic into every business function. For a quick practice variation, make the timeout stricter. Change the payment timeout from 100 milliseconds to 10 milliseconds, then run it again and confirm that the audit log still appears even when the order fails. Now you have a stronger practical understanding of async await in JavaScript. Like the video, subscribe to Dev Level Up, and write in the comments which JavaScript topic or real-world example you want next.